Dragon versus Leela Chess Zero. This is a 15-minute and 3-second increment game. This is a computer chess championship in the rapid challenger portion. Here we go. We have knight f3 and then c5 from Leela Chess Zero. So g3 from Dragon and knight c6 from Leela. Bishop g2, g6. So some type of Sicilian, but it also can be a King's Indian attack. It could also be some type of ready. It could be maybe even in English if you play c4. There's all kind of openings that this can transpose to. Let's see what happens. Castles, bishop g7, and then d3. We do have indeed a King's Indian attack, which can be played against really everything, in fact, but there are different ways you should play it against certain openings or certain setups from black. So after d3, d5 here from Leela Chess Zero. I mean, easy play. Pawns in the center, fianchetto my bishop, knight on c6, develop the pieces, get the king safe, right? All the same stuff you do in every opening. After d5, knight b to d2, following King's Indian attack still. You can go rook e1 with e4, knight f1, h4, knight h2. These are the usual ideas that you'll see actually in the King's Indian attack. So, of course, we have lots of chess left, so let's see what happens. d4 from Leela Chess Zero. This is actually an interesting move, right? Most people wouldn't push this pawn twice like this. Like, why are you pushing the pawn twice? Well, the idea actually is after e4, you kind of want to en passant, or maybe you can also just play e5 and try to play f5. But d4 does grab a little bit more space in the center. Now, the next move for white here is actually really interesting. What do you think it is? White to move. What would you do in this position? Here it is, right? Dragon plays knight to b3. That's actually really cool. In fact, it just attacks the c pawn and says, how do you defend it effectively? Of course, if you push the b pawn, it opens up the diagonal, and you always have stuff like knight, maybe e5, or even knight takes d4 in some cases when you play a b6. So we don't want to play that. We have queen to d6 from Leela Chess Zero, defending the pawn with the queen, get it off the back rank, and if bishop f4, we go e5. No problems, right? Now, next move here is one move, knight b3, kind of threw you off guard. Can you find the next move as well? White to move. Here it is, right? So, I mean, it's common moves. E3, E4, maybe H3, rook E1. I mean, C3 is actually going to hang a pawn here, so we don't want to do that. Maybe A3, A4. Maybe try to get the bishop out, right? Bishop F4, make it provoke him to do something. Or you play knight F to D2. Who saw that one coming? If you saw this, great job. In fact, but if you didn't see this, totally understand you. Because knight F to D2 is like, you put the knights on D2 and F3, and then you move them to B3 and D2. It's just very weird way of moving the knights, but also makes total sense. Knight b3, attack the pawn with tempo. Knight f to d2. You see this in the Catalan a lot when you can actually open up the bishop, and it's a monster here. You also have knight to c4, which you'll see in reverse structures of the dragon that you see with black pieces. So it's actually really nice. Maroczy bind structures, of course, the pawns are different, but you do move the knight around to the c5 square and Maroczy bind. So here, maneuvering to the c4 square makes total sense, and also putting pressure on this diagonal. So very nice reroute here. Pretty crafty with the pieces. Now b6, allowing this to happen. Can't really exploit it yet, but knight to c4, of course, attacking the queen. This is what we wanted to do. After queen to d7, in the King's Indian defense, you see this in the black side when black plays knight a6 or knight d7 to c5, and then they play a5 so that they can keep the knight on the outpost c5. And then you see the same thing here from Dragon with a4 stopping b5. Now b5 is going to weaken c5, but the fact that you may have to move the knight is kind of annoying. You do have knight a5, but a4 is actually the move here, stopping any type of b5 counterplay whatsoever. E5 from Leela Chess Zero, and then this interesting and cool move, in fact, aggressive f4. I'm castled. My bishop's looking nice. I got the two knights out. This bishop is undeveloped, but still working. Undeveloped, useful, but it is undeveloped. And then f4 also opens up the rook file with a smile here. After f4, knight g to e7, black has to start developing some pieces ASAP. You got to get your pieces off the back rank, and white takes the initiative and does something right now. White to move. What is being done? What do you do? Here's the move here. Of course, if you found knight takes e5, you are right. Great job. Knight takes e5. We're going to do something. We're going to open up the file with a smile. If you take with the bishop, that's just not a move. Okay, it is a move, but after takes. The problem here is that, especially human standpoint, you actually have the dark squares are extremely weak. Are you going to cancel your king? Where is your king going? Are you going queenside? What is going on right now? We don't want to take with the bishop, right? So knight takes e5 actually sacrifices the exchange. We take on a8, and we're up in exchange right now. But black has some counterplay. Knight to g4, and then h3. Our king is weak at the fact that, of course, these pawns are pushed up. The queen can take on h3, but we're up in exchange, though, and this bishop can come back to help us in certain lines. Black goes all in with knight to e3. Forking the queen and the rook, obviously, it's not a fork that can be useful because we're going to snap that knight off as fast as it got there. Bishop takes, d takes e3, and then we have queen to c1. Not caring anything about this h3 pawn. I actually had to look at this. I was like, what if he just takes the pawn? Now, of course, you do want to calculation over everything. As much as you can, calculate and calculate. In this position, obviously, we could defend the pawn, something like this, king g2, king h2, but queen to c1 is even stronger because it attacks this pawn. I looked at a sample line. If queen takes h3, we take on e3, which this was the whole idea, to defend. And okay, you need multiple pieces for a successful attack. You only got one over here, right? So not a lot of work you're going to get done after this with queen h3. The knight cannot move yet. King's still in the center. You have no pieces to help you. The bishop g4, what does that even do, right? So it doesn't really help you at all, in fact. So after queen takes e3, it defends, and then a move like bishop takes b2, nabbing another pawn. Obviously, bishop d4 is going to be responded with knight takes d4. We don't have to take twice because we have to defend this. We could play queen f3. Rook a2 hits the bishop. After the bishop moves away, we go back with bishop g2, kicking the queen away and just being better. Moving the queen, maybe advancing the e pawn. We're up in exchange. We're feeling great. So this didn't happen. Of course, after queen to c1, very strong engine move because the engine's playing. Queen e6. Queen e6, defending the pawn, right? So defending the pawn here, and then after rook to f3, which attacks it once again, finally cashing in on a pawn. Want to just kind of misplace the rook in a way. There's no bishop g2 anymore, right? So clever. I guess black Leela Chess got, a move from you. Hey, you were able to move the rook. You can't go bishop g2 anymore. Makes sense. Rook takes e3, bishop e6 developing, and also I need to be able to castle if possible here. Queen f1, get the queens off. I'm up in exchange. Why not? Let's trade pieces. Queen f1, and then we have queen to f5 getting out of the way. No trading. We don't need any of that. We come back with tempo, makes a lot of sense, and the queen goes back to f6. You have to move it. b2 is actually hanging here, but we let him take it. We don't care anything about that. Rook d1. So you think Leela Chess is going to take this pawn? We set a trap, right? Right? So he takes the pawn, and there's no trap. In fact, rook d1, many humans probably would actually do something like c3, which makes total sense, or c4. c4 is still hanging the pawn. Rook b1 too as well, but the pawn does not matter that much based off of the counterplay you're about to see right now. Okay, rook to d1, queen takes b2, and then d4 on the board. Wow. What a move here. After d4, if you see c takes d4, the idea here is just playing rook e to d3. We're going to double, and knight takes d4 is the move here. It's pretty nice how this is actually opened up for white here. But after the d4 move, it's very, very strong. I also looked at what happens on bishop takes d4. I mean, this is pretty obvious. You can just take on d4, c takes, and with the same idea, rook e to d3. Doubling, taking the pawn here, bishop defending c2. There's also decisive results. If queen takes c2, obviously, this is just annoying. This is going to be easy to convert for white. Okay, going back to it, actually after the d4 move from white, black just said, I have to get the king out of the center. It's time to castle, so that's what black did. Castle, get out of the center. D takes c5, B takes c5, and king h2. Right now, everything's equal. Everything's equal according to the engines. We are up in exchange, right? As a human, you play this all day, but obviously, you can play both sides. Like, you do have the bishops. There is some play left, but I would definitely take white because I'm up the exchange. But, of course, it says equal. Here we go. We got some moves. Knight f5, saying I want the bishop pair. If you take this, I get both the bishops. Yeah, you have the rooks, but the bishops can be very deadly, especially if you end up giving an exchange back. Bishop takes f5. Bishop takes f5, and knight takes c5. This looks really scary because, like, what did he just hang a fork? What is this? Bishop d4, but bishop d4, any type of moves are always going to run into rook to b3, which is extremely strong. I looked at a sample line. Obviously, the queen is hanging. You have to move it. If you move the queen off of this defense, then we're going to snatch it. But queen c2 is possible, attacking the knight. Rook takes d4. Queen takes c5, and then queen f2, which just defends the rook. This should be an easy, not easy, but easier way to convert, obviously, because you do have the extra exchange here. It's going to take some precision, but it is very, very good for white. Now, back to it. After knight takes c5, queen takes c2 without doing bishop d4. It was unnecessary. We didn't want any of that. A lot of chess left. I'm going to show you what happens in these next few moves. Knight to d7, attacking the rook, right? So the rook is attacked. Of course, it can be captured on d7, but we don't want to give up the bishop pair. Makes total sense to play rook to c8. Can you spot the best move on the board for white right now? Take your time, right? Pause the video if you need to. White to move. I don't think anyone is going to spot this one, but let's see if you can find it. White to move. What do you do? Okay. So here, it seems, I mean, there's the last move that you're thinking about is the one we're going to play here. I mean, maybe you thought about this. Great job if you did. But also, what is the plan and the idea? Hey, you know, only the engine knows. Queen to h1, guys. Wow, what a move here. Like, what are you doing? I mean, you can't even move the queen yet without the rook hanging. Now, of course, you could go queen b7. It does hit the rook here. And if you take mine, I take yours. But, I mean, this is just such an obscure move. Like, queen h1, right? Queen h1 out of all the moves on the board here. Queen takes a4, right? So, keeping an eye on the rook. And we still go queen b7 because, again, that same idea. We take him with check. We're actually mating. And, of course, queen takes d7. So we play queen to c4 to just defend the rook. We don't want any of that trouble. We take a pawn on a7. It's double-edged right now. It's actually closer to +1. But that says a lot about Black's compensation. I'm up in exchange here, but Black has compensation by a lot with the bishops. My king is weaker than Black's king here. You have to tread lightly here and ultimate precision in every line here. After queen takes a7, queen to c2, which attacks the rook. Watch this move, rook d6. There's a rook on d6. The rooks look, what is this, right? King on h2. Who's winning? I don't know, right? Now, of course, white feels like they're on the edge of messing this up, but also there's a lot of pressure. We have a queen here, the rooks, like it's not, I mean, this is defended very well. Let's pay attention here. After rook d6, we have bishop to g4, attacking the e2 pawn. Queen to a6 makes total sense. Defend the e2 pawn twice. It was attacked twice. We defended twice. Makes sense. Queen to c1, right? Attacking the rook. Rook to e7 here. Rook e7 puts the rook on the 7th rank and puts some pressure on the 7th rank, right? The f7 pawn is kind of loose as well. So, okay, rook e7. We have the move. Here it is, right? Are you ready, guys? Ready for this? After rook to e7, right? Rook e7. Black plays bishop f8. Seems like everything's fine, right? Seems like everything's okay. Here's a side note. Leela Chess Zero did not understand, in fact, that the move that we're about to play here is absolutely winning for white. In fact, it's white to move. What do you play? Hopefully you did your puzzle rush today or any day or every day. Okay, hopefully you did some puzzles. This one is crazy. In fact, Leela Chess Zero, as I got the notes for this game, Leela Chess Zero did not actually see that the move was winning until after the move was played. Wow, this is insane, right? Here's the move. In fact, okay, Leela Chess just missed mate. I mean, Leela Chess is some type of human, right? Maybe like 0.1% human, but definitely human here after missing a checkmate. Now, of course, hopefully you spotted it. If you didn't, I totally understand. This one's a shocker. You ready for it? Rook takes J6. Oh my goodness. It's a family channel. Oh my goodness, he has a family. Rook takes g6 is ridiculous. If you spotted this, great job. You've been doing a lot of tactics. That's a nasty move. Can you find the follow-up? Well, let's look at all the lines. In fact, I'll show you the line that happened in the game. It was bishop to g7. After bishop g7, rook takes g7. Really crazy. We're going to look at all of this in a minute. King h8, rook takes. I'm just going to show you what happened game-wise. King takes, rook takes, check. This is a nasty mate. Queen h6 and queen h7 mate. What? Let's rewind that. After rook takes g6, right? Rook takes g6. Well, why can't you just take the rook? Why did he block with bishop g7? That doesn't make any sense, right? Well, let's look at it. The h takes g6 because you want to maybe keep things close. That's cool. Oh, smart man. Smart. You're a smart fella over there, right? And then queen takes g6. Right, sack the queen. That is mean. After f takes g6, knight f6, king h8, rook h7. Mate. And have a nice day. And have a nice day. Oh my goodness, right? That is just beautiful. Absolutely disgusting. Okay, what about the other way? Cool, right? Sack the queen, right? I mean, you could for kicks and giggles here if you you want to play around. Knight f6 is just mate as well. King h8, rook h7, mating. Oh my goodness, there was no way out of this. So that makes sense. That's why you can't take it. So bishop g7, perfect. Bishop g7. Rook takes g7. Well, what happens if he takes the rook? Let's see. King takes g7, queen f6. That's going to be an easy checkmate. King g8, f7, and h7. And that's mating as well. Ouch. Okay, last line. So after rook takes g7, that's why king h8 was played, hoping that you don't see rook takes h7. I mean, if I'm going to sack once, I might sack again. Why not? King g8, you had knight f6, right? Knight f6, and then mating any way that you like here. Of course, beautiful checkmates. You could take with the other rook as well. And then this move here, actually, after rook takes h7, king takes h7. Boom! Rook takes f7 check. No matter where you put the king, I'm going to check you next, and the next one's going to be mate. King h8 check, and checkmate. Beautiful game from Dragon. Leela Chess missed it. Unbelievable, right? Hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better about your own games, right? Missing mates, it does happen, even to Leela Chess Zero. This was an amazing game. If you like this one, make sure you check the ones right above me. We'll see you guys on the next video.